Hey guys, I'm back with another video. I reopened my commissions about 2 weeks ago and I was lucky enough to work on a character design that was still in its early development stage. I asked the client if I could share and record the process and they kindly gave me permission. So today, I'll be showing you guys how I approached the design and added more details to help bring the character to low poly life. First off, I asked about the character's ethnicity and age. The client specified that the character was Japanese and in his 50s. He also mentioned that he wanted the character to resemble the physique of Christopher George or Batista, so I went ahead and gathered some reference images. As you can see in the video, I spent some time adjusting the mesh to achieve that muscular inverted triangle silhouette form from the front and trying to maintain a bulky appearance from the side. It took me a while to get it right since I'm more accustomed to creating female characters, but I think I was able to make a good masculine base shape for the character. I think the only problem I encountered during this was trying to not get tempted to just trace the reference image. Since I was using two different photos that don't exactly match, I have to compensate and choose which of the references fit better for what I am trying to achieve. I ended up following Christopher Judge's physique since keeping the model bulky on the side view was pretty easy. Also, as I am modeling it, I had to keep in mind that the character is wearing a jacket, and because of that, when I extruded the arms, I kept it fixed since I will be modeling the arms of the jacket a bit puffier later. Also, I made the neck a bit thicker to give it that macho look. The client also gave me some 3D models to use as references, so what I did was import those models and inspect the state of the model's meshes, and honestly, it really helped me get going a lot faster since I was able to get the idea of how the character should look like. It also helped me decide on how much detail I should give the mesh for the face. Also, as you guys can see here, choosing between which references should be prioritized also helps in making the process a lot easier. I could have gone and followed the side view shape of Batista's face, but it would kind of conflict with the character's Japanese ancestry. After I was able to shape the face, I ended up with a rectangular and rigid shape for the jaw and a pretty masculine looking side profile. I went and made the jacket first before making the hair mesh. I have made jackets before, but the client gave me a character from the Shenmue game and I referenced it while making jacket. He also stated that he wanted to give his character a similar look with the Misato model that I made a couple months ago. Now, what I found difficult to figure out here was trying to maintain what I have already shaped for the torso. Since I wanted the jacket to have some thickness to it, I had to add a couple of loop cuts and shape it very carefully so that I wouldn't really ruin what I have already made. Plus, I could have always just duplicated the mesh before working on it so that I would have a clean backup to fall on. So as you can see here, my technique was to extrude some of the loop cuts, then try to smooth out the transition while connecting the newly extruded faces so that I wouldn't change the overall shape too much. And since the jacket is made out of a different material, I wanted to emphasize some of the portions of the jacket, such as the shoulders. I went ahead and gave it a bit of a soldier-ish look for it, and honestly, I just spent a good amount of time adjusting it bit by bit until it looks like how I want it to. Now, I had to adjust the model's thickness since I think it felt like the model was a bit too rigid at that moment. Since the client wanted the pants to look sort of loose and normal, I had to accommodate the overall shape of the pants to the model so that it would have a much better cohesive shape. Now, one thing I did different for this model was to use 3 loop cuts for the finger joints. It turned out a lot better than I expected. The deformation was more consistent so long as you weight paint it properly. I actually forgot to record the start of me making the hair mesh since I think this was the second day of me making the model. But like from the previous video, I started with an outline shape, but this time I was referencing the 3D models that the client gave to me since he wanted the character to have a messy or shaggy hair like the 3D models. Hairstyles like this are pretty time consuming to make, that's why I tend to model it last. It's a lot of figuring things out since most of the time the number of faces on the hair mesh will not match the number of faces of the face mesh, so I have to figure out how to connect these faces without breaking my topology. I guess one thing I can share is how I actually connect the two. First, I try to line up the hair mesh as close as I can to the face mesh. Then I use the knife tool to trace a path where I can connect the vertices of the hair mesh to the vertices of the face mesh. Again, a lot of figuring it out as I go. Now, when I rig the model, I think one of the things I think about is how many bones should I use for the spine. And for this model, I used 4 bones, but I think it would have been a bit better if I used 5 bones. But again, not really since 4 is enough to get that smooth arc on the model's back when posing it. I actually really like rigging the hands compared to making them. I find it enjoyable to line up the bones for the fingers for some reason. I think it's because most of it is just copy and paste and a little bit of adjustment, as you can see in the video. I really am happy with Blender's 5.0 update since it made weight painting a lot easier. I think if you wanted to mirror the weights of the bones to the opposite side from previous Blender versions, you had to navigate somewhere else to make it affect. But now you just have to click on the X buttons and on the top right of the window. Or maybe I'm just misremembering things, but I do remember that it was more tedious to do in previous versions. Also, if you just saw that, I did adjust the thigh bones a bit since I didn't like how the mesh gets stretched when the bones were rotated. It's one of the new things that I actually learned on my own, even though it seems pretty obvious. Honestly, weight painting in general is really boring, and I really don't know if I should include it in my process videos. It just takes way too much time, and it's all just me erasing and smoothing out the weights on vertices. So I guess for now we can skip it and move on to the texturing phase. Now, whenever I texture, I always think of three values: the base color, the shadow, and the highlight. These three are what I try to prioritize in the early stages of my texturing process. Once I find the right values, I pick the in-between values or colors so that I could smoothen out the transition between these values. I do this to every single base color that I would use on the model. It works, at least for me, since I am able to manually make gradients on certain parts of the textures. And if I were to render the model in a pixelized manner, the textures still look solid and their blending always look top-notch. Anyway, I'll let the video play on so that you could see my process. Anyways, here's the final model. If you guys are interested in commissioning me, you may reach out to me on Twitter, or now called X, and message me there. Thank you and see you in the next video.